Tripping. Tripping with Theo Bowl.
Come on, Dre.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Tripping with Theo Bold. I'm your host, Andre Theo Bold. Welcome to the show. Glad y'all could tune in. AT is where it's at on most forms of social media, so make sure you follow me. Bam. We in here. All right, so yeah. You know what I'm tripping on today, man? I said, do you know what I'm tripping on today? Man, I'm tripping on these bickering ass bills, man. Bickering Bills 2.0 is back. Or I should say, the bickering bills are back. This is Bickering Bills 2.0. All right. My Buffalo Bills, man. We know how to turn nothing into something, man. That is, like, here's the thing, right? Like, in case you didn't hear the news, the Buffalo Bills announced that they're not moving OJ Simpson over into the new stadium. It's gonna be no remnant, no nothing. They're just gonna ignore and pretend OJ didn't exist in the new stadium. So here's the thing, right? Like, I'm not here to debate the OJ case. All right. I'm not walking into that wasp nest. All right. I'm not here to debate that shit, because it's stupid at this point. Like debating the OJ verdict or the OJ case is stupid at this point because people's minds are made up. People's minds are already made up. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Jesus himself came back and presented the image of what happened that night in its full entirety, and all you had to do, or all people had to do, was accept that as the truth to get into the kingdom, most people would choose to go to hell. That's how much people's minds are made up. So I'm not here to touch that, right? My thing is like the Bills ownership and the management. I done stood by their bullshit too many times, man. I done co-signed their bullshit, and the buck stops here. Always gonna be a Bills fan, but damn it, I'm gonna criticize the ownership and the management. All right, so let me take you back down memory lane, right? So the Bills, like I said, the Bills management is they're clearly not focused on winning a Super Bowl. Clearly, because they keep turning something into nothing. Right? For example, let's go back to the firing of Sean McDermott, right? Let's go back to the firing of Sean McDermott. Let me make sure my audio levels are where they need to be, because sometimes, when I be flowing, my stream don't be flowing. I want to make sure I'm good. Okay, what's going on here? Let me do that. There we go. Okay, just wanted to make sure my audio is working. So let's talk about the first order of business, right? Let's go back to when the ownership fired McDermott. All right. So to me, Sean McDermott should have been fired, right? I think he's a great person. I think he did great things for our franchise. He definitely got our team back on track. He built the culture up, so I give him props and credit for all that. But McDermott's issue was a recurring thing that just wasn't being corrected. And the thing that wasn't being corrected was game decisions and critical, or game management in critical situations, right? That's why Sean McDermott didn't work out. Game management in critical situations, right? Because we should have lost that Jacksonville Jaguars playoff game. We should have lost that shit because of game management, right? And then that Broncos game, when it came down to it shouldn't have even come down to the catch, right? Like we lost that game when we went in or when we tried to let Josh be Superman with 9 seconds left in the first half on our end of the field, right? Like that was game management. Like a lot of people say, "Oh well, if Josh Allen didn't fumble the ball, then you can't blame McDermott for that." Oh hell yeah! Oh hell yes, yes I can. All McDermott had to do was say, "Hey, go out there, take a knee, and we're gonna go back and regroup." But when McDermott didn't do that, that was his fate. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not here to debate whether. Here's the thing, right? I'm not here to debate whether it was a wrong decision or not. I agree with the decision to fire McDermott, but the issue is how management and ownership handled the shit, man. Like it was on some like it was on some I'm sorry. It was on some silver spoons, cry to mommy type shit. You know what I'm saying? You know, like when he fired McDermott, like uh Terry Pagula basically was like, I don't know what it is with him, man, but he feels like he feels like he owes us an explanation for what he does. It's like, motherfucker, it's your team. Do what you want, you know? But he came out and he gave this whole story about, I mean, I looked into Josh Allen's eyes and I never seen him look like that before, and he just looked broken, and I had to do something to help my quarterback out. I'm like, bruh, that sound like no, that sound like some shit where you got a kid in school that's getting picked on, getting bullied, and getting his ass whooped, and he's taking judo, and he's a black belt, but the shit ain't working out for him. So now, like the mom got to go around and explain to everyone, oh, I took Johnny out of judo. I had to put him in something else. I had to put him in another judo class. He just had one ass whooping too many, and he had the tears coming out his eyes, and he had to. We just had to. Man, just sign that motherfucker up for somebody else. Tell him to quit crying, do some push-ups. You know what I'm saying, and get back out there. Or look, behind the scenes, if you want to coddle behind the scenes, that's fine. But publicly, man, that public coddle and like explanation and all that shit, that was weak. But you know, I stood by it. I didn't say much. I was like, okay, I agree. Like, whatever decision was made was made. Cool. Let's move on. You know what I'm saying? So that to me is the first instance in when the Bills turned something or turned nothing into something, right? Or they made it bigger than what it had to be. Right. The second instance was when, Pagula chose to retain the services of Brandon Bean. Right. All he had to say, like, let me not look. Here's all he had to say was like, look, we're gonna keep him, and it is what it is. Right. It's my team. You can cry if you want to. That's all he had to say. Not like that, but you get the point. But instead, man, he had this whole like he basically, y'all remember how the shit went down, you know? Like a lot of fans didn't agree with Pagula retaining the services of Brandon Bean as general manager. So uh Terry Pagula basically threw Keon Coleman under the bus, right? To basically validate his decision. And at first I co-signed that bullshit. At first I co-signed that. I was like, hey, look, like I was one of them that was like, look, if Keon would have brought his ass to meetings on time, then the owner wouldn't have had nothing to talk about. But now that I think about it and how the Bills organization is moving, I don't think that's true. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think they would have found something else, right? It's at the end of the day, um, Terry Pagula had an organizational issue. That was a real problem, right? I'm not saying he had to say all this, but that's the real problem, right? If you guys know your history or followed what happened, basically when Pagula bought the team, Doug Whaley was the general manager. Then they went on this big search for the next head coach, and then they arrived at Sean McDermott. Then McDermott forced Doug Whaley out, and McDermott, in my opinion, at that time, with his experience as being a head coach, really, he should have had. Really, they did the shit ass were backwards, right? But really, McDermott wasn't in a situation to where he should have even been general manager, right? Like after you win a Super Bowl, or if you're like Belichick status, or if you're like just that dude and you have works to show that you're that guy, then you know, because we kind of get into the cart before the horse, right? Like a lot, because I had this conversation with some friends of mine before, and they were saying, "Oh, well, no, you got to hire the head coach first, and then hire the GM." And then some people are like, "Well, nah, you got to get the GM first, then the head coach." And I think it depends on the caliber of the head coach, right? Like if you're like someone that is known for winning, right? Then to me, you can then take on and be head coach slash general manager. Then the head coach in that case, right? Like the head coach may think, or may say, "Hey, you know what? I want to delegate the role of general manager to somebody else because I want someone that's going to do what I want someone that's going to follow my vision." Right? So in that case, it makes sense where the head coach then goes out and then, you know, hires the general manager, right? But in this case, it was a kerfluffle, right? If that's the right word to use, right? You had an organizational structure issue within the Bills organization, right? You had McDermott come in, and then McDermott, like I said, forced out Whaley, and then there was this big search to go find the next general manager, and then um, basically they went and brought in Brandon Beane, and everyone thought, okay, they thought that Brandon Beane and McDermott were like best buddies, and really, from what it looks like, they were just coworkers, you know. Um, and then they were never in lockstep, right? That was the word they kept throwing around, like, "Oh yeah, man, so man, like we're in lockstep." Man, I heard, man, I heard that word lockstep so many fucking times, man. That shit was annoying, man. Hey, like, look, whenever a company tells you and advertises what they are, that's what they not doing, right? That's what they not. You know, I'm gonna bite my tongue here, man, because I don't want to get in trouble. Well, I can say it because technically we don't exist anymore, right? But I work for one company, and the slogan and the model that was put everywhere, that was on our business cards, it was like our company slogan. It was building trust every day. It's like, motherfucker, if you got to put building trust, if you got to spell it out and advertise that that's what you do, then motherfucker, that's what you don't do. So when I heard the Bills every like press conference talking that lockstep shit, I'm like, yeah, they're not seeing eye to eye. I'm like, yeah, they're not seeing eye to eye, man. Oh, that was hilarious, man. It's like Brandon Beane's favorite word was, yeah, lockstep. We're every step of the way. We're lockstep. I'm like, nah, man, y'all not seeing eye to eye. What happened was, and Pagula kind of spilled the beans because what happened was he said that he had two paths of communication. Then you had Brandon Beane in one ear, and then you had McDermott in one ear, and one had to go, right? So if if you fired Beane, right, then you're gonna get more McDermott. And McDermott showed you that during the game, he lacks game management in critical situations. So to me, it may like, look, I'm not arguing whether it was right or wrong. My thing is the Keon Coleman shit was some whole shit. Like when I look back, like at first, like I said, I co-signed on Brent, I mean on Bagula throwing Keon Coleman under the bus. But after I further thought about it, I'm like, yeah, nah, that wasn't the move. It was an organizational structure, and Keon took the hit for it because um of because of his performance in meetings or lack thereof, right? So, and like I said, even if Keon came to all the meetings, it would have been something else. Maybe not with Keon, but it would have been something else, right? So we have this like we're developing this bitch made culture where we're blaming other people for our shit. Like we not like no one's really trying to step up to own nothing, you know? So this brings us to the topic of this is where I said, man, I had enough, right? Like, look, I'm always gonna be a Bills fan, man. No matter like right now, it feels like a scarlet letter, but that's my team, right? I'm not gonna quit on my team. I'm not gonna root against my team, you know. Um, but I'm gonna start calling the bullshit out. You know what I'm saying? So this brings us to the latest thing, right? So like I said earlier on, the Bills made an announcement that OJ will not be moving over into the new stadium, right? And me personally, you know, it's like history is history. That's my stance on it, right? History is history, you know? Like whether you like it or not, OJ was a foundational piece. He was a major foundational piece of the Buffalo Bills history, whether you like it or not. You know what I'm saying? And as a result, for on the field performance, to me, he should have stayed or been in the ring, right? But that's not my major issue. My major issue is the fact that they even said anything about the shit, right? They got this beautiful new stadium that they about to move into, right? And they came out and made and turned nothing into something, right? They turned nothing into something, man. Because now, guess what? Guess what we talking about? We talking about OJ and why he's not in the like. Now we're starting this whole debate, right? Now we have a divide within the fans, you know, and now it's a thing, right? Now the media has clickbait to distract us from our goal, which is to win a Super Bowl, right? So here's the thing, right? Like if it all just goes back to being an adult and being mature, man. Like if I got someone that I don't fuck with, I'm not gonna subtweet something. I'm not gonna reach out to that person to let them know, hey, guess what? I'm not fucking with you from now on, right? Because guess what? Now I'm fucking with you, right? So it's they just basically now they basically created a stain on opening up this brand new stadium to me, which is always going to be an issue because now down the road, now you got bigger issues, right? Like what if down the road, you know, the fans or the NFL clowns the clowns the Bills long enough or hard enough, and then they reverse the decision to put OJ in the wall or the wall of fame or the wall of like whatever, right? Now it's a thing again. Now it's controversy, right? It's like they're just they're just feeding controversy and they're focusing on on everything but winning a Super Bowl, right? And then also now down the road, now if you ever put someone up on the Ring of Honor or the Wall of whatever you call it, now whoever you put up there, if they do something in the media or in a court of law that's not favorable to society, now are you going to pull them down now? Right? It's like there were so many. This is just they just fumbled that shit. To me, the way they should have handled the shit is there were lots of ways to handle it. Right? Like one, they could have just put the old ring up there and just not said shit. Right? Or two, they could have just put names up and left OJ's name off and not said anything. Because look, truth be told, when I went to a Bills game at the Ralph, like the old stadium, when I went to an old stadium, or when I went to the games at the old stadium, I wasn't going up there and checking every name in the on the wall of fame in the stadium, right? I was there just focused on the Bills winning the games, right? Now, when I go into the new stadium, now it's like I'm gonna be looking up and wondering, okay, whose name did they leave off? Why isn't this person's name up there? You know, now I'm looking around, right? And I think they're leaving Marv Levy's name off of that shit too. So to me, they leave Marv Levy's name off of that shit. That whole ring of honor shit is a waste of time, yo. Like they shouldn't have even done that shit, Mark. So, anyways, let me stay focused. All right. So another way they could have dealt with the situation or did this is they could have focused, and this is my preference, right? They could have focused on the living legends, right? They could have had like Jim Kelly week, or Jim Kelly year, right? They should focus on the living legends that are getting ready to check out or that are old, right? Or older. I don't like using the word old, right? So, for example, week 1, Thursday night football should be Marv Levy night, right? We're gonna honor Marv Levy. He's a legend of the Bills, and each week is when we put up a name of the player in the ring, and then we focus on this person or this individual that contributed to the Bills' success, right? They could have focused on all the living legends first, right? Either go week by week or go year by year, right? Next would probably be Jim Kelly because Jim Kelly's health isn't the best right now. Not knock on wood, he's here for a long time, but I mean, he's been battling with his health. He's been on the brink, right? And they could have had like Jim Kelly week or like Marv Levy week or Marv Levy year and just played highlights, right? And we're just looking at old highlights during the game as we honor the living legends, right? And then see the game. Now what could happen is by the time you get through the living legends, then you can have an excuse for why you're doing the legends that passed a certain way. And then by then we would have probably have won a Super Bowl, right? And then once you win the Super Bowl, you can do whatever you want because no one's gonna care. But now, nah, they made it a thing. They made it an issue to where they just came out and had to let people know that, yeah, we're not going to put OJ in the new like they couldn't wait to build a new stadium just to not put OJ in it, which is childish, right? And it's not even about not putting them in there, but they had to announce the shit, right? Like very, very unprofessional, very petty. And I don't understand it from a business perspective, right? Because when you look at it, because really the Bills organization they're kind of doing some like low key dirty shit in my opinion, man. Like because you had like all these other fans, all these fans that were season ticket holders for like decades, and the ownership didn't want to hear that shit. They were like, "Nah, you want to get in the new stadium, no discount." They were like, if you want to see these bills, you got to pay these bills. You know what I'm saying? And then you even had like military veterans that were looking for like a veteran discount, and the veterans they told the veterans, nah, if you want to see these bills, you got to pay these bills. So that kind of alienated, I think, some of the older fans or the older fan base. And then let me tell you some real shit, right? I'm gonna say some real shit, right? Like you don't want to alienate the old or the older Bills fan base. I'm gonna tell you why, right? Because no disrespect to new generation Bills fans, but y'all ain't been through shit. That 13 seconds and getting beat by the Chiefs every year in the playoffs, that ain't shit. I'm gonna say that again. That ain't shit. Like, man, look, if you done been through 4 straight Super Bowl look, them Super Bowl losses hurt like a motherfucker, man. So when you go through 4 straight Super Bowl losses and the Music City Miracle and the Three Rivers Monday Night Meltdowns, man, if you alienated that old, if they alienate that old fan base and you got these new fans and you asking these fans to pay that kind of money to go to a game, and then we repeat that shit that we did back in the 90s, that stadium gonna be empty. That's just my opinion, but that stadium gonna be empty because people, man, that kind of heartbreak, man, that shit, yeah, nah. So I'm telling the ownership, man, you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful how you move. You got to be careful, man, because right now, like y'all moving in a real Like it's very, very how should I put it? It's very corporate, but it's also like very ticky-tacky, you know? And if you notice, the dude that came out that made the announcement was Pete whatever. Like, we don't even know this dude's last name. Like, we haven't even seen this guy. Like, who the hell is Pete whatever that came out and made this announcement, right? To me, what it looks like is they had a vote, and this is me just speculating, by the way, right? They had a vote on what they were going to do with OJ's name or whatever, and Pagula was on. But look, don't forget, like, so Pagula is a majority owner, right? Like, they have like 10 owners now, and there's like another group that's all part of it, but Terry Pagula is still the majority owner of the Bills. So I think he was on the side of, hey, yeah, now we're not going to move OJ's name over there. But what's going to happen is, I think they put it out there, and now they're kind of sitting back and waiting on the blowback, right? Like, how is the NFL going to respond? How are the fans going to respond? You know, and if a shitstorm is coming and they got to change the decision, then Pagula will step up and kind of be like the hero and act like, oh yeah, well, you know, hey, look, I wanted him in there, and you know, I'm going to reverse the decision, right? So I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case, but that's what it feels like, because why would you have a no-name person come out and make an announcement when you could have just said nothing, right? So that's my 2 cents on the shit. What are y'all thoughts on it, man? You know, like I said, the Bills organization and the management, man, they are moving real funny style, man. They're moving real, like, it feels like they're employees, right? It feels like they're managers as opposed to being owners. Because when you own something, that's your shit. You don't owe nobody no response. You don't owe nobody nothing. When you own something, your first priority is the bottom dollar. Like, to quote Ralph Wilson, you got to be concerned about the viability of your franchise. Right? And right now, they're kind of sitting back and like throwing stones with their hands, and they got this beautiful new stadium, and they're just focusing on the wrong shit, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I got to say about that, man. What are your thoughts? Put it in the comments. Let me know. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and say, do you agree with the decisions that they're making, but do you agree about how they're going about shit is not in the best interest of a business? Like, sound off in the comments, man. Let me know. You know? Yeah. Sound off in the comments, man. Let me know. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, man, the bickering Bills are back. This is Bickering Bills 2.0, right? You're gonna see a lot of, it's gonna be interesting to see how everything kind of starts off, because I can already hear Chris Collinsworth, just if he ever has to announce a game, his ass is going to go right to that wall of honor or whatever it is, and he's going to talk about it, right? And as opposed to focusing on the game, they're going to be focusing on who's not up there. You know, I can just hear the condescension in Chris Collinsworth's mouth when he announces our game, you know. Not saying that he's pro or against whatever, but we gave people something to talk about when there was nothing to talk about. Right? Like, if the goal is to win a Super Bowl, man, do shit that's going to be aligned with winning a Super Bowl. Don't create a circus by announcing some shit, you know, or whatever. So I think I said all I need to say on this. AT is where it's at on most forms of social media. Tripping with Theo. Boom. Yes, I guess I
Tripping with Theo
went a little short today. But sometimes, you know, when you sometimes when you say what you need to say, that's all you got to do, and then move on, which is what I'm doing. So once again, thank y'all for tuning in. AT is where it's at. I said that like tripping. Y'all been cool. Tripping. And that's all I got. I'm out of here. Peace. Tripping. Tripping with Theo Bowl.
Tripping with Theo Bowl.